Good morning, and we are in, what are we in? 7, aren't we? Mosiah 7? Yep, sorry. Couldn't remember if we're in 7 or 8 for a second. Sorry about flipping this up and down so that you feel a little bit dizzy. And Ammon and his brethren are talking to Limhi king, the king Limhi, and King Limhi addresses his people, and after everybody gathers together, he starts to talk to him and says, "Hey, we've got a way of becoming free from the Lamanites." And he says, "But I trust there remaineth an effectual struggle to be made." So we'll see how that goes. Therefore, lift up your heads and rejoice. Now, I don't know if you noticed in the last verses that I just scrolled up through, there's only about one time that was underlined that was God was directly mentioned, and that is mostly because it was just narrative. In the Book of Mormon, though, you'll find that about every 1.25 verses or 1.5 verses, God is mentioned. So it's easy to see places. But now he says, "Therefore lift up your heads and rejoice and put your trust in God." And he's the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and that God that brought the children out of Israel, out of the land of Egypt, or children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, sorry. This seems to be a theme as well. Mostly, I think it has to do, remember I mentioned last time that one of the things is to remind the children of Israel of the covenants of God. And Nephi mentions this idea of being brought out of bondage, and God delivering the children of Israel at least twice. Once when they went to get the plates, and once later on, I think it was when he was building the boat. And then we got these people mentioning it, realizing that if God's that powerful, he can deliver us as well. And I think that's a good message that we need to remember, that even in our harder times, difficult times, he's there still. And that it's the same God that has brought our fathers out of the land of Jerusalem. So he's reminding them of that. And then he reminds them again, "Behold, it is because of our iniquities and abominations he has brought us into bondage." Goes back to the same thing in 2 Nephi 2:20, or 1 Nephi 2:20, that says that inasmuch as you keep the commandments of God, you will prosper, and if not, then you will be brought into bondage or not prosper. And then it gives a little bit of a history, which we will be going through anyway, but it's interesting, his own take, which is that Zeniff, his grandfather, who was made king, was overzealous. He comes to the land, King Laman lets them have the land round about, but then he did that for sole purpose of bringing the people into subjection and bondage. And now at this time they pay a tribute of 1/2 of everything they own. And he says, "Now is this not grievous to be borne? Is not this our affliction great? Now behold how great a reason we have to mourn." So they're mourning the situation they're in. and mentions that even then many of their brethren have been slain. For if this people had not fallen into transgression, the Lord would not have suffered this great evil should come upon them. Now, we'll see that later with the people of Alma who came from these people. Again, spoiler alert, I guess, if you've never read it or never heard of this. But we will get back. We'll see what happens as we go along with that, but he's basically saying, but it wouldn't have happened if we had just followed the Lord, if we hadn't done the things we did. And it tells us a little bit about why. And he says, behold, they would not hearken unto his words, meaning they, the people, not necessarily just the people there, because they're following the Lord by this time, but as best they could. But the King Noah and his priests, basically the generation before, it seems, blame the generation before. And a prophet of the Lord have they slain, yea, a chosen man of God, who told them of their wickedness and abominations, and prophesied many things which are to come, even the coming of Jesus Christ, of Christ. And of course that's Abinadi, and we will talk a lot about him the rest of the not this week, probably the next week. And because he said unto them that Christ was the God, the Father of all things, and said he should take upon him the image of man, and it should be the image after which man was created in the beginning. Or in other words, he said that man was created after the image of God, that God should come down among the children of men and take upon him the flesh and blood and go forth upon the face of the earth. If you remember yesterday, we talked a lot about President Nelson's address, and this is the scripture that prompted that address to the Come Follow Me creators to put that address in, because it tells us that man was made in the image of God, and that Christ came down in that same image. Now, because he said this, they put him to death. And many more things did they do that brought down the wrath of God upon them, and we will hear more about that. For behold, the Lord said, I will not succor my people in the day of their transgression, but I will hedge up their ways, that they prosper not, and their doing shall be as a stumbling block before them. Again, it ties back to 1 Nephi chapter 2, verse 20. And again he saith, if my people shall sow filthiness, they shall reap the chaff thereof in the whirlwind, and the effect thereof is poison. And he saith, if my people shall sow filthiness, they shall reap the east wind. It's understanding what we do has consequences, basically. A lot of things in this life, a lot of people want to say, hey, there's no consequences. They really do. They think, I want my freedom to do this, this, and this, but they don't want to pay the price to do this, this, and this. It's a strange thing where they forget that there is, if you sow something, you reap it. Now behold, the promise of the Lord is fulfilled, and ye are smitten and afflicted. And we're going to look at that promise a lot closer, and then probably next week more than this week. But if you will turn to the Lord with full purpose of heart, put your trust in him, and serve him with all diligence of mind, if you do this, he will, according to his own will and pleasure, deliver you out of bondage. That's pretty strong there. And I think it's the same thing. It just keeps going back to like the Isaiah chapters and things in Nephi and the things they said there. There's a lot. I mean, they're smitten and afflicted. And why are they smitten and afflicted? Because they didn't follow the prophets. And so the promise of the Lord is fulfilled, that would happen. And it did happen. But then they could say, oh, well, look what God has let happen and everything. Well, of course, because he said it would if you did this wrong. And we'll see this a lot more in the next few chapters. It's some of the best chapters I think in the Book of Mormon, really. But he says, all you have to do is turn to the Lord with full purpose of heart and put your trust in him and serve him with all diligence of mind. And if you do that, he will deliver us. And I think that's a great message to think as you go throughout the day of how you can serve the Lord with all diligence of mind. I'm sure that I will today, and I hope you have a great day.